Kia ora koutou. Police are today undertaking a major operation to clear the roads and restore order to the area of Wellington affected by protest activity. The operation is the result of significant planning and the commitment of several hundred staff from around the country. Our intent is to reclaim public roads and restore order. This morning, you will have seen we have urged protesters who have not already departed to leave now. Our message to those who do not wish to be caught up in our operation is please go home. We have staff on standby to assist their safe departure from the protest area. We were clear from the start that de-escalation was the preferred option. And during a period of engagement with protest leaders, we were able to get in place tactics that de-escalated both the number of vehicles and people at the site. However, we reached the stage where protest leaders were either unwilling or unable to effect meaningful change, particularly to the behaviour and the impact of the protest on Wellington. In the last week, we've seen a changing mix in the makeup of the crowd. In particular, we've become concerned that those with good intentions are now outnumbered by those with a willingness to use violence to effect their means. We have observed an escalation in concerning behaviour, which has ultimately resulted in today's action. This has never been about preventing lawful protest. This particular protest, though, has reached a stage where the harm being done far outweighs any legitimate protest. As of a few moments ago, we had confirmed 36 arrests for a range of offences, from willful trespass to obstruction. We've towed 15 vehicles, including a number of vans, campervans and trucks. These have been seized and will not be returned in the immediate future. 3 of our staff have received injuries, 2 with abrasions and 1 with paint thrown in the face. All have received medical attention at the scene and are back out working on the operation. We will continue to arrest and charge people where necessary and will continue seizing vehicles throughout the day. Public safety is our priority, and where possible, we are helping people to leave the area safely. We've been assisted today by a number of partner agencies, including Wellington City Council, Corrections, Oranga Tamariki, Fire and Emergency New Zealand, Defence and Wellington Free Ambulance. I'd like to close by extending my thanks to the staff involved in today's operation. This is challenging and difficult work. They have been professional and measured throughout. I'll now take questions.
Can you give us an idea of the scale of the operation? How many extra officers did you bring in overnight? Because there is a lot more in Wellington now.
We have hundreds of additional officers from around the country on top of the staff already available in the district.
Why did this take so long?
We have, from the start, endeavoured to de-escalate this situation. It has not been our desire to land with a conclusion that puts our people and others at risk. However, the balance has tipped, and now is the time to bring this one to an end.
Was it a resourcing issue as well, now that you have enough cops on the ground to basically outnumber the protesters?
I was very clear of our approach, which was to de-escalate. There is no interest in anyone here in turning this into a fight. However, this protest has tipped over a balance and it now needs to end.
Do you anticipate that this will be the last day of the protest?
We will continue this operation until it is completed, and that will take as long as it takes.
So is there any timeline on that at all? Or?
When the job is done, then we will be finished.
What was the judgment that allowed for today to happen? How did you weigh up what was essentially a safe enough situation for you to go in?
The changing mix of the crowd on the site has been a key thing for us. As I indicated, we had some early positive engagement with protest leaders, but it became clear that they were unable to bring about a state where this protest was lawful. In addition, as people who were there from the beginning left, we saw a changing mix and a group of people who appear less focused on the protest issue and more focused on confrontation.
Were you waiting for the crowd to downsize to a certain level before you felt safe to engage?
We have always maintained that de-escalation is the right option, and our judgment has been really about the mix of the crowd and the harm being done to the surrounding area.
When it took 23 days to get to today?
how far will you go?
We need to return order to this part of Wellington, and that means clearing the streets, and it means removing tents and structures from Parliament's grounds.
So you're going to eliminate the whole protest basically by doing this?
We're going to address the aspects of the protest that are unlawful. As I say, this has never been about preventing lawful protest. This protest, however, has reached a stage where we think it is unsustainable.
So will you guys,
We've seen a protester being punched on the ground today by police. The police used excessive force today. Are you comfortable with the level of force that's been used?
Look, there will be, I'm sure, all sorts of matters to be addressed following this protest. What I have seen myself, I am very happy with. I think our staff have been extremely patient and extremely restrained. We have seen tactics today, including the deploying of fire extinguishers at the police line, the throwing of paint. Early on, we saw weapons, we saw shields, we saw barricades. So I'm really happy with the police response.
How many protesters have been injured and whether they've had to go to hospital?
I'm not aware that anyone has had to go to hospital, and I'm sure that as we work through this, we will get some clearer numbers for you.
Children being used on the front line?
So far, what we have seen is children being removed away from the places where police are. We would ask that children are removed altogether. We are working very carefully to make sure that those who wish to exit the site safely are able to do so.
Commissioner, you've obviously integrated policing from outside of the district, so when was that turning point and how many days have you been working on the strategy around what this operation was going to be?
I won't go into fine detail, but I can say that this operation has been planned over a number of days. It is very significant because we want to make sure that we can do this as safely as possible, both for our people and for anyone involved.
In terms of the place that you've brought in, have you brought more in than what you had at Wellington?
We have brought in a lot of staff from around the country, so we have hundreds of staff in addition to the staff in Wellington District.
Does that worry you about the rest of the country, the potential that there isn't police cover out there everywhere else?
This is what we do. We're a very large organisation and we move around to meet the demand where it is. At the moment, this is where it's needed.
36 people arrested today. Where will they be processed? Will they appear in court to be considering pressures on their courts? Will they be sent back to their hometowns or will they all be dealt with?
Look, that might be a little bit case by case, and we'll give further detail on that as it's available.
Is 23 days acceptable to you when effectively there is a COVID camp outside of Parliament and people have, including your own officers, have been infected?
Nothing about this protest has been acceptable. However, the tactics that police need to bring have to balance the risk between acting and not acting. Those are judgments that I'm sure in the fullness of time we will review. I believe we've got it about right.
Because it's gone on so long, there's basically a COVID outbreak in the middle of Wellington.
There is a COVID outbreak all around the country, and this is very unfortunate, but we need to appreciate that COVID is throughout the country and that is our new normal.
Have you had to give staff extra training to know what they're doing and dealing with that?
Yes, we have done a certain amount of training with staff coming in, and we also have a range of specialist staff who are accustomed to working in this kind of environment.
How many officers have been injured as a result of so-called friendly fire incidents? In other words, being accidentally injured by their colleagues, being kept straight by their colleagues?
I'm not aware that of any injuries that have resulted from that.
The liquid that was thrown this last week, was it able to discern what that is? There was some rumours of battery acid, but
I don't have the detail on that. I'm sure we can respond.
do you have any idea the amount of protesters that were spread today?
Look, all of that will come out in the wash. Our people have deployed the tactics necessary to stay safe. Right from the start, it was very low key. We only moved to shields and other protection at the point that it became clear it would be needed. So we've responded.
Under what circumstances should pepper spray be used? I have video of police just hiding it, spraying occasionally at protesters.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but what I have seen is people responding to what's in front of them. I observed a crowd of protesters spray a fire extinguisher at officers, and I'm aware that pepper spray was used in response to that. All of those things will be looked at in the fullness of time.
While this operation is underway, what work, if any, have you been doing around how you avoid this sort of situation in the future?
Yeah, look, there will be, of course, a need to learn from this, and we will turn to what our post-action review needs to be to learn from what has been one of the most significant events in our recent history.
If this protest clears out in a couple of weeks' time, it will be re-energised. You haven't done any work yet to work out how you would prevent that sort of situation.
Oh, no, listen, we are learning as we go. I'm not going to go into the fine details of that while we have a range of protests underway, but of course we are learning as we go.
Do you have a strategy for how you would stop the convoy coming into Wellington again? Do you have a strategy now for how you
We have a lot of contingency plans that I won't go into.
The claim that the police said last week that protesters threw fecal matter and another substance at protesters threw that at police. Have you been able to substantiate that? Do you have evidence that that actually happened? Because a lot of protesters are questioning that.
Yes, I'm aware that that has been questioned. Based on what I have been told, I believe that both those things are true.
What was the substance?
I can't tell you that. All of that will be looked into. Right today, our focus is on safely resolving this protest.
Law school, what's the situation at the law school, some practices where grounds, the lights were on the building? Is the law school, what is the situation in terms of occupation at that part of the university?
We have got some quite good progress in recent days of clearing camps, tents and equipment from around the university. The university's been very negatively impacted by this, and I believe those grounds are now in a safe state.
But are the protesters inside the building?
Not to my knowledge.
The testing of protesters that's going on as they're being arrested, do you know how many have tested positive for COVID?
No, I don't know. We can come back to you with that sort of detail.
Do you regret not clearing the lawn that first day, now that we're 3 weeks on?
Say it again, sorry.
Do you regret not clearing the lawn now that we're 3 weeks on and looking back on that first day where you gained significant ground?
I think we need to look at all of the things that occurred along the way. What I would say is that in those early stages we had a very large number of protesters present, and as I've said previously, the amount of force that police would have had to use in order to clear the grounds would not have been acceptable to most New Zealanders.
What's the plan around seizing things? How does that play out, I guess, in terms of what does it look like long term? One person told us this morning he's there, but his vehicle's the only thing that he owns. So what would your message be to them? You know, he could be forced homeless temporarily.
Yeah, the vehicles that we're seizing are under a delegation under the Local Government Act. We will not be releasing vehicles that we suspect may be used in further offending, or certainly not immediately.
How do you feel about the fact that could force some of these people homeless then?
We have a phase running around supporting people to get back to where they need to be so they're no longer in Wellington, so that will be part of our recovery wrap-up response. The message I want to give is if your car is still sitting there somewhere on those streets, get it out before we tow it.
How much ground have you gained today? Can you give us an idea in terms of metres and streets?
Look, I think it's pretty evident from what we see on the ground and what we see in the coverage. We're making good progress. We are towing vehicles as we go. Inevitably, there's a pace that you can move at with that. But we're also seeing people get the hint and realising that now is the time to take their belongings and leave.
Where's the helicopter come from and what's its purpose?
The helicopter is one of our police helicopters from Auckland, and it is providing us with excellent intelligence about what's happening on the ground.
So
How
do you,
dangerous was that laser pointing at it?
A laser pointer at an aircraft is always incredibly dangerous, and it's a serious offence for someone to do that, and if we can identify that person, we'll be prosecuting them.
so do you anticipate that there will be cars parked on the previously occupied sort of streets by the end of today?
We will make the progress we can make. We'll be clearing it as quickly as we can.
Will this be like a 24/7 operation until you get it done? Could it take days?
We will move at the pace we can, and we will operate when it's safe to do so. So I'm not going to give the fine details. I'm not going to give the fine details of those tactics.
The protesters in some of their chat rooms obviously knew that there was a police operation about to happen. Was that a leak from inside, or did you let protest leaders know? How did they find out that you were about to strike?
There was speculation beforehand that there was going to be a police operation. Clearly, with a large number and growing number of police in and around the area, people jumped to conclusions, but I'm not aware anyone had specific intelligence about when we were going to operate. Thank you very much for your time.